Hi guys, Retha here. Today I wanted to chat to you about a very recent news article that came out about the Tshwane University of Technology students that are protesting because they don't have water and electricity. So it sounds like, and I think students get a bad rap in that they always protest testing about over everything. But this one was very interesting for me for a few reasons, all right? They're protesting over water and electricity, which is a very basic thing. And, yes, students are quick to protest and to get upset, you would think, but they're not. They're actually quite patient. I've had it in properties before where we had issues with council and so on, that caused these type of things. So clearly this thing must have been happening for quite some time. So I thought I would go and investigate a little bit. And what I found was actually quite funny. So I wanted to talk about that this morning quickly a little bit. So here you'll see the article, the TUT students embarking on overnight protest over lack of water and electricity. So this, I think, was the first time it broke. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. And you can see these are the students. So you're like, okay, great, these they are. And I'm reading this article here, and it says, education, or not article, sorry, it's your the placard that this guy's holding up, and it says education is free in jail. Should I become a criminal to be educated? And I'm like, what does that have to do with water and electricity? Um, so I was like, okay, I don't get it. So I see here there's like a little blue link, and I click on that, and guess what? TUT students won't be joining the nationwide fees protest for now, but this is dated 15 March 2021, and there's the same picture. It's like, okay, it makes sense that this is sort of a picture for there, I don't know, but it was quite funny, but at the same time not funny, because what these journalists don't know is that, they're putting the faces of people now onto an article and saying they're protesting, but they're not. These things are there forever on the internet, and you have now gone and put people in there that wasn't even part of this protest about the water and electricity on here, and it's giving them a bad rap. So I mean, yeah, for me that was quite shocking. But anyway, I found then a later article from IOL that explains this a little bit better. All right. So you'll see, yeah, it actually looks, because they did say they're barricaded, but the quite funny thing is that, it looks like they're having a little braai there in the driveway. Not a lot of students there, so I don't know how many of them are actually protesting. But anyway, it is like that. Then what you would see is that they say that it's actually a university res, it looks like, which is the Pretoria West for the Pretoria West campus. And they have basically said that they come from rural communities, but the problem is that they don't have electricity. So the electricity is always off, and there's no proper running water. I mean, running water is like a basic service, right? So how can a university res not have proper running water? And that made me think a little bit more about, but why? I mean, and it made me realize in my head about all the issues that I'm dealing with on a daily basis, not only when it comes to students, but in general, with water and electricity and that sort of thing, right? So we all know it's winter, and your first reaction is, can you just not give these students their water and electricity? It's winter, can't they have a little bit of warm water? I mean, how would you feel having to bath in cold water in this weather? I mean, it's not something any of us would like to do. And then, of course, studying by candlelight. You think you're leaving a rural environment where that is the norm almost, and you're coming to get a better life, and make a life for yourself. And here you are back to that, and you literally, they're saying they're studying by candlelight. And guys, the next thing that's going to happen is the little candle is going to fall over, And guess what? That res is going to burn down. So it is quite dangerous, and it's really, really not cool for these students not to have these basic services. And you'll see here that they're not even complaining about the internet. Now, I'm assuming there's no internet when there's no electricity, right? And those are the three basic things that if you don't keep an eye on this, your students in your house will protest. They will get upset. Water, hello, obviously, we all would. Electricity, same thing. And internet, right? Why internet? Because internet right now, well, apart from everybody with a teenager that knows that they are like tethered to the internet, is that most of the universities, if not all of them, are having some kind or some form of online learning. So these students need the internet to be able to do their classes. Some exams they'll write online. Their tasks and assignments are being done online. So they need that internet, right? Basic services these days are those things. But I also wanted to talk a little bit about the plight of a private accommodation landlord. Now, what is the difference between university res and private student accommodation? Right, so a private student accommodation is basically, it can be accredited or not accredited. And all it means that if it's accredited, then those houses or those properties can normally host or house NSFAS students. And then your university res is run by the university itself. Now, in this case, it's actually, it looks like it's a university res that's having these issues. And it's very similar to almost what private landlords will experience, in that the university is also just as dependent on those services being delivered to it like we are as landlords. I wanted to give you a couple of examples of where the municipalities have really failed us. Apart from Eskom load shedding us again, I'm talking more around normal things that you kind of take for granted that should be working, and it's not. So an example would be at, for instance, the Vol University of Technology. Those guys, at some point, they were off. The electricity was literally off due to cable theft and that sort of thing. For a month, a whole month, there was no electricity there. And I know that because my dad lives in that area, and he actually was kind of keeping me updated on that. So how do we then navigate this environment where the municipality can't provide us with services, yet we are expected to provide those services to our clients? And it's a very difficult one, because even in another property that I have in Pretoria, in Tshwane, Pretoria West, same area as these students where they're protesting, randomly, the municipality decided that for some reason they're going to change my water bill for the last 4 years. So they went and just did adjustments for the last 4 years. And I have been paying, okay? I have received a water bill from them. I've paid every month. I'm up to date. Next thing, I get slapped with 50,000 rands for my water. Like, how? How can this happen? How, number one, if they undercharged me for 4 years, surely they should have picked it up by now. Number two, you can't just randomly go and slap someone with 50,000 and then next thing they're going to show up at my door and try to cut me, right? Because I can't pay that, just a big charge like that gets slapped on me. So that is another problem, is the billing issues of council, right? Then you've got this whole thing about Tshwane now cracking down on delinquent landlords. And you I don't know if you were part of the mayor's Twitter following. I loved following it, right? It was like drama twice a day, because they cut off so many people that were literally owing the city billions, right? So they cut off, I don't even want to give names, but it's like all of the Department of Justice, all of these government departments, private people that you would think, wouldn't have been in this situation. But I've seen too many times, and I've done it myself, where you forget about one bill, and then you catch up again, and sometimes you don't catch up everything, and all of a sudden you find yourself in this position where you now owe a big amount, and you have to go to council and negotiate kind of an arrangement and that sort of thing. But as a student accommodation landlord, you cannot allow that to happen to your property. You have to be on top of your municipal bills. Very, very important. I want to give you another example. Last year, we were managing a building for a landlord. And in that time, there was a municipal, it's like a water pipe that burst, right? So municipality came out, they fixed the pipe, but the water in the building wasn't restored properly. And we couldn't understand what was happening here. Eventually, we figured it out that this building had a meter on it that has a limiter, or it's limited. So it only supplies a certain amount of water, of liters a day, and then it cuts off. And this is a standard Cape Town thing, right? Because of the water crisis that we had a couple of years back. So now what happened is that the water comes on, the meter opens up in the morning, and the water starts to fall. So it's a 5-story building, right? So it goes, and the way the plumbing was done wasn't right either. So what happened is that the water opens 10,000 liters for the day. It fills the geysers on the first floor. It fills the geysers on the second floor, and then, whoops, your liters are finished. Then the guys use up their water. There's no more water for the rest of the day. And guess what? Same thing happens the following day. And so we were in a perpetual cycle like that until we were able to get that meter unlocked for a couple of days, just to kind of stabilize that water situation. At that same time, while that water was off, because it was off for about 2 weeks, we were literally filling up these 5-liter bottles and ordering water, and filling up these 5 liters from another property that we had and driving it through to the students. But I mean, a 5-liter will be your cooking for the day. It's not washing, cleaning, laundry, bathing. I mean, it's crazy. You cannot be without water. It is absolutely a crazy, crazy mess. So I want to know, when these students don't have water, what is the management of that res actually doing to alleviate the situation? Are they actually bringing in water tanks, helping them, or at least, yes, it's an inconvenience. Maybe they need to communicate with the students, tell them what is the issue. It's not because we're not paying our bills, but it's because of the municipality maybe that can't provide the service, or whatever the case may be. It might be old pipes that needs to be replaced, whatever. There's always a good reason for these things happening, but are they communicating, number one? Number two, who is managing that place? Because I'll be like, guys, you need to make a plan. You can't just leave it and not communicate. And how do people wash? What are you doing to help them do their laundry? What are you doing to help people with cooking water and washing water and bathing water, so that they can at least continue? It's unhygienic. Oh, I get so, like, yeah, riled up about that, because it's, I mean, we know these things, right? But when you're in a building with so many people, because normally it's like a lot of people when it comes to students, you really need to look after that, and you need to act quickly. Then the second thing is that at the same time that the water, and now these kids didn't have water, it's like water being delivered for a few weeks. Next thing, oops, there goes the electricity. And when the electricity was off for the 3rd day in a row, only at that point did these students say, okay, enough is enough. And they started embarking on the same route that these ones are, where they were saying, we're now going to threaten you. We're now going to, because you're not listening, you're not solving the problem, and that sort of thing. And they were actually under quite hectic conditions the whole year. And this was towards the end of the year, right? This was around about October that all of this happened. But in the beginning of the year, they were very patient. There was lots of noise happening in the building. They were all of a sudden some, because the students were just on 2 floors, and the rest of the floors they were private people who had kids that were making noise. Can you believe it? Students are saying like, don't these people know there's students living here? They must be quiet. Can you imagine that? Right? It's usually the other way around. So they have been patient the whole year, and at the end of the year, when no water, no electricity, they said enough is enough. So I want to understand, in this specific situation with the TUT students protesting, how long have they lived with this? It must be quite a while, you know. So, and what has that res and the management of that res, what have they done to help the students and to communicate? And nobody talks about that in these news articles. Which is quite disappointing because, you know, that's kind of the first thing I would have investigated over there. Then another thing, right, that I want to talk about. Sometimes these services are cut validly, and it is the landlord's fault. But at the same time, is it really their fault? Okay, because guess what? It's also the university's fault. It's NASFA's fault. It's like a whole community that it's like, you know, you need a village to raise a child. Well, the students, it's the same thing. There's a lot of role players in the environment that needs to work together to create an environment that you know, is conducive for these kids to learn and to be our future leaders, right? So so the one thing is that if you look at various universities, right, they don't pay in time. There's very few of them that tells you, like, guys, I'll tell it, NWU, University in Potch, if they say they're going to pay on the 30th of April, that's when you're going to get your payment. And 99.9% of your students will be on the list and you'll get paid for them. Errors do creep in, but I mean, it's the exception, not the norm. Then you get universities that pay monthly, right? Then you get universities that only pay every 6 months. And like literally right now, as I'm sitting here on the 21st of June, we have not received, I have 200 students with CPUT, Cape Peninsula University of Technology. I have 200 students, CPUT students living at my properties, and I have not paid 1 single cent yet. I'm on a group for the Vol University of Technology Landlords, and I can see the pressure that a late payment or a non-communication, you don't know when's your money coming in, how you're going to manage this cash flow. They're expecting you to provide, as an accredited private landlord, they're expecting you to provide these services to students. They're expecting you to provide them with water, electricity, and internet. Yet you're not allowed to charge a deposit. At a lot of places, some you are, but at a lot of places you can't charge a deposit. You can't charge water and electricity. So literally, you're having you have a property with 10, 20, 30 students in it. Imagine 30 people, how much water and electricity they use. And you must pay that. It's expected from you that you must pay that, but the university doesn't pay you. Which is why a lot of people just do private students, because with these accredited places, the NASFA students, you can't charge that. So and all of those factors are working together to create this huge demand and gap for NASFA students to have good accommodation, because very few people can afford to do that. And like I say, right now, not 1 single cent from CPUT. I'm still waiting. We go through the steps, we go through the motions, yet the finance department can't even tell us when to expect payments. So as I sit here, I'm like, please let it be in June still, but I don't know. I don't know if when it will come through. I know it will come through, but when? And in the meantime, you know, I have staff to pay, I have water, electricity, internet, and whatever else to cover. So it's a very, very serious thing. I mean, imagine, right? You got your salary. Yes, you're going to get, maybe if you're earning, let's call it 20,000 per month, we'll pay you 23,000, but we're only going to pay it out to you physically every 6 months. Imagine how you have to now go and manage your personal budget, your cash flow, how you're going to pay all your daily expenses, right? So that in itself is also a big problem, and that is also contributing to landlords missing payments for these services and causing these issues for students. So overall, it really is just a big ecosystem that has to work together to make it to create spaces and environments where students can thrive. Now, I'm very passionate about it. I do a student accommodation management course that you're welcome to come and join. The next one is in August. If you don't want to wait that long, I'll pop a link for you, and we can have a chat, and I can give you some alternatives. I do have a replay available as well. We do have various alternative strategies for you to be able to manage your cash flow, where it's allowed, what's not allowed in certain areas, is allowed in other areas. You just need to know where. And I do cover some cash flow strategies in there, how to manage your electricity, and all of these things. And of course, we'll manage for other landlords. So if you're tired of these issues, if you don't want to do that anymore, give me a call, and or send me an email to Retha, Retha, at mystudenthouse.co.za, and I will assist you to manage your house. Guys, it's a fight every single day. Let's soldier on. Bye.